Ready to roll.
Good morning, July 26, 2016. I'll call the Wright County Board meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The minutes of July 19th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delight and second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda for today.
Mr. Chair, if there's no changes, I'll approve.
Did we have something that was getting
Oh,
added?
Yes.
you're right, we did have this. Go on.
Okay, yeah, I knew there was something relative to personnel. That's not Virgil's thing, but Virgil, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you got?
Yeah, I'd request that we pull items 4 and 5 from timed items B.
Okay.
I'd like to bring those back at a future meeting once I wanted the state to review the resolutions, just to make sure they're in order.
4 and
Okay,
5.
so items 4 and 5 will be removed from the agenda at the request of Virgil. And we've got an addition here of a case aid position in public health.
That's on the consent agenda. I think.
Consent agenda is where you would like that. So 1B.
On the consent agenda?
Make sense, Susan?
Under administration,
Did I say C1B?
C1B.
C1B.
Maybe I left the C out.
Yeah.
C1B under consent agenda, right? Everybody agree that's where it would make sense to go?
Yep.
Yes.
And you've got this, Susan?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as
Under
amended.
again, isn't he?
Motion by Commissioner Delyden,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And the consent agenda then, as amended.
Make a motion to approve it.
I'll
Motion
second
by
that.
Potter, second by Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. 9:05, Bob Hevela. Good morning, Bob.
Hey, good morning, Board. The first item on the agenda is to approve additional participation in the Clean Water Partnership Program. Board, just to bring you up to speed, we have participated in this program several times. We have 3 separate participations with it, plus we have the Ag BMP. This is a program that's being utilized quite well, and there's additional funds that are available to us. So, Board, the only twist to this one is in the past, these are debt instruments. Basically, we borrow money from the state and we lend it to people applying for the program. We'll pay for their septic programs. We charge them 3% interest and the state charges us 2%. Again, there's a timing of when they pay us and when we pay the state, so we do need that 1% to help cover some of those expenses, but also we're making money for administration on this. So I would like to use part of that 1% to pay for the legal costs, which are about $1,200 for this next go-round.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the participation in the Clean Water Program.
Second. We got motion by Potter, second by Burrell. Commissioner Delyden?
Yeah, how much do we do a year in loans? Do you have an idea somewhat?
Off the top of my head, Commissioner Delyden, the one pot is $500,000, and I believe we've lent one pot and we're down to $150,000 left on that one pot. Diane can tell you better, I think.
Good morning, Diane Sander with Coordinator through Crow. Crow has helped the county with the septic system loan program dating back since 2011. Currently, the remaining balance that's left is $151,000. Since 2011, there's been 65 septic systems that have been updated, and there's been over $600,000 in loans that have been available to the county. So this is just a continuation for these septic system loans. And Wright County is one of 5 counties involved with this project.
Is it available to anybody, or is there
Yes.
income restrictions?
Nope, it's available to anybody.
Then Commissioner, just a heads up, but we have the Ag BMP that covers things that might fall through the crack. I think most of our participation has qualified for this program, so we continue to use these funds first. So,
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Board, the second item on the agenda is set by statutes. Following the primary, we are to hold a county canvas board. And we had Secretary of State training, so if you participated in the past, it's going to be just a little bit different, but it's still going to be pretty straightforward and timely. We are required to hold that either the second or the third day following the primary, which is August 9th. So I'm recommending Thursday, August 11th from 2 to 4, or Friday morning from 9 to 11. And I need 2 commissioners to be on that. None of you are on the ballot, so any one of you can be on the canvas board? I'm sorry.
No, primary.
Down at the primary.
Oh, not in primary.
So you can pick the 2 commissioners who won't be on the ballot. But I'll need 2 commissioners, the mayor, St. Michael County
Congratulations.
Court Administrator, and myself.
Well, there's 3 of us that won't be on the ballot, so.
Mr. Chair, that afternoon I have a I-94 meeting in Rogers, so it'd be a little inconvenient to get from Rogers to here at that point.
Did you say August 11th?
The 11th on Thursday. Friday I'd be available if, so be it.
Why don't you just have some of the people that aren't even running at all? Because
That's,
Yeah, I can do it.
pick the day.
Okay, Mr. Delight volunteered. I can't, Chris, what did you, I could go either way on it. I don't matter to me.
Yeah, same here. I mean,
What's close for you?
yeah, so,
Um,
yeah, I mean,
You want to take this one and I'll volunteer then for the November one when we get to that one?
yep.
So Commissioners, are we looking at August 11th, that Thursday?
August 11th from 2 to 4.
2 to 4 is what they got on there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So we need a motion for that time and date and then to appoint Commissioners Delight and Hewsome.
so moved.
Second.
Motion by Burrell, second by Potter. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Board, the third item on the agenda is to approve a redetermination of benefits for county ditches. We've had conversations about 13, 22, 31, and 23. 3 of those are in Woodland Township. We've reached out to Houston Engineering. They do have certain programs, but they're not for 103E redeterminations. So we did reach out to Ron Ringquist on your order, and they're doing the JD15 redetermination, and he does have a crew that would be available at about the same time.
Bob, did Houston have any indication when they thought it might be approved, or do you have anything?
Board, I think we shared
But
Chris Otterness's.
Reading the letter, they don't, but I
Right.
thought maybe you had some inside scoop or something.
No, I don't have any inside scoop. I know Bowser's looking at them for certain benefits, but not for the 103E, the drainage benefits. So Board, Ron would be the lead, and he has a crew that would be available to do all 4 of these ditches. So if you want to order the redeterminations, we will commence with drafting that with Ron and his crew.
And then, Mr. Chair, I had, on ditch 31, the landowners that are on the ditch or around the area right now have basically done a clean out on the entire main line, all the way down to the outlet right now. So I don't know if that one is as critical. I know ditch 22, there's a number of people that want ditch 22 for sure redetermined. I'm just,
Well, Commissioner, I think it's 31 and 22 that are kind of overlapping a little bit.
well, no, that's 23, I think, and 31.
23? Okay.
Yeah, 22 is south of
All right.
31, but,
Well, the
well,
one-
you know what,
We have to do them eventually anyway.
Exactly.
So might as well start working,
It's just
getting
that-
them done.
it's just that if Houston was gonna have that thing operational a year from now, 31 wouldn't be in a disarray if they didn't get theirs done, but 22 does need a clean out, especially on the bottom end of it. And I know there's a farmer that's done some clean out already, and he said, I don't want to pay for the whole thing myself, so.
Is 13 the one
Buffalo Township.
farther north where that lake is?
Runs towards Pelican.
Remember, it's got
Yeah.
that barn.
Yeah,
Barn-
okay,
the
that's
barn is
that one,
under.
yeah, and that one definitely needs to get done.
Well,
And Commissioner, just a heads up there, there's certain legwork that we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to kind of define that ditch, as repaired. If we're limited as to the repair, that impacts the viewing, so.
And plus it runs through that lowland, wetland. So it's a little complicated, but
could
a
I
lot of
ask
them do.
Janice a question too?
Sure, Commissioners, feel free to ask Jan any question. Come on up here, Jan.
She has a better memory than the rest of us.
Yeah,
You don't know.
we'll find
Jen,
out, no.
When we did meet down in Woodland with Ditch 31, I think, Mark, you might have been there too. I know we talked about it, and there was kind of both sides to that, and I don't know if we ever really did come to a consensus on 31.
I think a majority of them wanted to do the redetermination. They were asking for a little bit more feedback
Yeah.
as to the cost
Well, I mean,
versus the repairs.
right,
that we-
because they will, 31 is a long ditch. I want to say probably, what, 2 or 3 miles probably.
Isn't 31 the one that Pete's on, though?
Yes.
And see, we did decide that those rolls were very unfair.
Oh, they're totally unfair, I know that, but the thing is, there's one landowner that has virtually no benefit, and he pays about 25%. So what the farmers in the area did, said, that they even said it's not fair to Pete, so they just went out and did the work. Kind of each one helped do different segments of the ditch.
If you have any more repairs in the near future, you're gonna run into the same problem.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and on a lateral or two, there is work needed to be done there, so, okay. We'll just
Mr.
go
Chair,
with it.
Janice, I was thinking that ditch 13 is off 50th Street. I mean 40th Street, excuse me.
50th.
It is off 50th? Okay.
Gootniks, remember?
Yeah,
eventually,
I thought it was 40th, but I thought it was by Buffalo
Oh.
I think
Township.
it's 50th.
Okay. I'm off in my,
Well, and it says, regardless
Says
of what
50th.
street it's on, it's the entire
It's
ditch, right?
ditch- it's ditch
It's just
50.
not an area near that street or nothing, so
Yeah.
I wonder if we shouldn't even just kind of, that should almost be crossed off of the,
let's
because it kind of implies that it's
let's
just
just
a
put
portion of it maybe
Buffalo
that is.
Township and maybe, because,
Mr. Chair.
Is it entirely in Buffalo Township, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I think we just say Buffalo Township, that might be.
And Jan, on 31, the big expense really, and they're gonna have to get done anyway, the big expense will be purchasing the rod of land. Whether Houston could do the viewing cheaper or not, the main expense is gonna be the purchase of the one rod on the ditch, I would sure
And then if he
think.
does 31 and 23 at the same time, they're
Yeah.
in the same watershed, so that might
Okay.
benefit roll too.
Well, it's
Mike,
gotta
you
get
have
done
something?
anyway.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Commissioner Burrell, I seem to recall when you first got on board here that the idea was to do redetermination of pretty much every ditch because they haven't been done since Theodore Roosevelt was president or thereabouts. And that it's in our benefit, the county's benefit, to have all these redeterminations updated to the modern era per se. So we know where we stand if some future repair comes in. So if we can get Ron right now to get this just takes a few of them less that we got to do later. And since that was the whole mantra when we started doing the ditch thing, I think it's imperative that we continue on with this and actually when we get a chance to get the ditches viewed, get them done, redeterminations.
And I wasn't arguing against it, so.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, you're right. And we're on the marching orders. We're going to try to get these all redetermined, so.
I guess, isn't there statute that requires that?
Yeah.
Yeah, now, on the other side of the coin, if you have a ditch that we know there isn't gonna be any repairs done in the next 10, 20 years, or there doesn't appear to be any, then what is necessarily the benefit of doing it, except perhaps if you have to do it by statute?
And 31 would almost qualify for that, Pat, except there's a couple of laterals that have not been cleaned yet. And there again, it's the same thing. If it was $10,000, Pete Kern's paying 2,500 of it, so it wouldn't be fair even at that, so.
And again,
Go ahead.
the end result of the viewers is a public hearing where everybody, Kurt Dieter says, if everybody walks away feeling they're being abused, then they've done their job, so.
Oh.
So far, they've been doing pretty well.
I'll make a motion to approve the ditch viewing
Second.
redetermination.
I'll second that.
Motion by Delight, second by Burrell. Any further discussion?
This way.
What's that? He
I
beat
beat
you.
you to it.
He beat you, okay, no problem.
Get us in here.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And just to clarify then, so Buffalo will just say County Ditch 13, Buffalo
Yeah,
Township.
I think,
Township, yeah.
should be like the other ones on here. Otherwise, unless we start,
Be consistent.
yeah.
We only put that on there to give you a descriptive area for you to remember. It is the entire ditch, so. Board, the fourth item on the agenda is a new tobacco license. And again, any new beer license or tobacco license, I put these on the regular agenda for you. We have the proper signatures, we have the proper fees paid. So I'm asking you to approve the tobacco license for Cardinal Enterprises doing business as Super America in Rockford.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Bob, is this the one that's the old Shell station on Highway 55?
Commissioner Potter, I'm assuming so. I don't know that for sure.
Anyway, with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the tobacco license.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before he leaves, ditch 38, is that the one off of 12 by the trailer park and stuff?
That's been redetermined already.
Right, but we were gonna do something at the very end and clean out. Have we ever gotten that done yet, or
No.
what's
and
going on with
well,
that one?
I talked to one of the people on the system, and he had volunteered to go do it, and then the landowner said he wants to do it himself, and I guess I'll just have to follow up a little bit. I mean, that somebody should do that, because that is one that's holding water up right on the end, and it unnecessarily, there's no reason to do it, so.
Are you talking about the Sones' property?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't think that another person on the ditch system had offered to clean it out, and then they said, no, we'll do it ourselves, so
Okay.
that's the last I heard. So
Right.
I
Board,
don't-
I have no request to bring
And-
before you, so
Yeah, and-
Mike might be working on it.
I could follow that up with Mike, so just so that it gets done. And the Shones, I mean, I understand their concern, they want to keep that wetland, but we would not even need to address that right now at this point, because there's probably 3 feet of fall, just judging by my, by
Well, I think
eye.
there's two things. One, they want to keep the wetland, but two, they don't feel as though they should be a benefited property owner also,
Yeah,
didn't
that
they
was-
suggest that at one point?
I
They
think,
did suggest that at one point, but the viewers we've held the public
I
hearing.
think we.
Oh, but I just want to make it clear that there's two things that they actually want.
Right. And then I'll offer this board that, there is a repair that needs to be done on that system. This is the one that has the tile that goes underneath the trailer parks.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have some kind of engineering to figure out what the proper repair, rerouting that ditch or doing something with it.
Well, we should start working on that. I don't know if we need to get an RFP, get a couple of quotes from a couple of different engineering firms. But, I mean, we redetermined it, what, a couple of years ago now?
Yeah.
We're coming up
And
on it.
So we spent all that money, we haven't done anything yet. I think it's time to start moving forward to get that issue solved out there.
Yeah, I think we probably actually finalize finally approved that probably just 6 months ago or so, isn't that
Right,
probably
I mean-
more close? But you're right, regardless, it's time to act on it. Otherwise, why did we redetermine it?
Yep.
And Board, I'll just offer this, that part of that ditch is an open ditch system, so we had to acquire the one rod. And the values that are used on that land are so low that it was less than a couple $100 to acquire the one rod. Again, that was just the parcels that they identified. We identified, you got to do this all the way up to the outlet, so. It seemed to me that the quality of the land derives the amount of money you paid to acquire that one rod. And so
That would
it
make
isn't like the
sense.
prime egg land that we're taking.
No, none of it
Oh,
was
right.
at all, but we do need to get that before it becomes a major problem, because we know that underneath that trailer park, it's gonna fail.
Yeah, we had a sinkhole, so if it happens once, I'm assuming it can happen again.
Yeah, so we need to, whatever we need to do, get some estimates from a couple of different engineering firms.
Well, when we last handled this, where did we leave it off at? I don't think we
Well-
left it off with, okay, now we're gonna.
No, we actually.
We must have left it off with something in mind, and where was that exactly at?
Well, we had different ideas, but probably the most plausible, because putting a tube under the railroad, the railroad said it would be about $50,000, so that kind of put that out. But if we use the existing tube that goes under the railroad and then came on the south side of the tracks, instead, bypassing the mobile home and then getting back out to the area that needs to get connected up, seemed the most plausible. We did also ran a camera in from one of the manholes in the trailer court and went towards the outlet of the tile, and we found a lot of tree roots in there. And that Janice left already, but I should get that CD.
Yeah, we have some of the photos in the,
Yeah,
Sure.
but we could actually put the CD maybe in Drainage DB at some time.
Commissioners,
So-
since we're talking about 38, I also want to draw your attention to, this is one that was redetermined in the late 60s, but we didn't have the records. We have the affected benefit acres after, but we didn't have the official record. So the redetermination was really to reestablish where the ditch is and then identify all those benefiting from it. So it was a compound of, one, we have to do it, and two, was to reestablish where that ditch is. Now we've done that, now we need to focus on what needs to be done.
But,
So what should we do? Should we get an engineering firm?
well, we eventually would have to, because there's always that danger of the thing, like Kerry Saxon was saying, that it's a metal tube under there and it's all corroded. I mean, it could just open up and
Like
then,
Bob said, we already had one sinkhole, so.
What ditch are we talking about, 38?
38.
38.
Yeah, and it's not even on the agenda
No,
at all
I
anywhere
know.
today, too. I mean,
Yeah.
we're kind of getting a little bit, we start trying to make a decision
Mark put it
here.
on the agenda.
But I think that needs to come back.
Yeah.
Point well taken, that we need to get
Point well
that back on the agenda and figure out what we're gonna do, and
For next week.
next week you want it back?
Yes.
Okay, put it back on there, let the appropriate parties know.
Okay, I mean, Commissioners, do you mind if I work with Mike and make sure he's ready? I mean, otherwise I'm gonna come here and just say, hey, we're gonna talk about this again.
Yeah,
I'd like to
well,
have some.
talk to Mike, letting Kerry know it's on, if he wants to come in, he's got some history of it too, if he-
Yeah.
I don't know if he's.
We just need to move on it.
If Mike's not ready, could he do it a week later?
Yeah,
Okay,
or 2 weeks later.
whatever.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Board, the last thing I have are the claims.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Potter, second by Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Bob. Say, Virgil, before we get started, so what was that suggested name you shared with Mark last week that Mark didn't tell us about?
Well, word on the street is this name Parveyors is gaining momentum for the new
Par?
building. Parveyors, Parks and
Oh,
Surveyors.
okay, okay.
I've heard it at different meetings, but I don't know if it's official yet.
I don't think that would clarify anything for the public.
You didn't like Sarks?
I like the highway department myself. Well, good morning, Chairman Swatsky and Board of Commissioners. This morning I have 3 items for your consideration. The first 2 items actually deal with the same South Side Trail in Annandale that received some federal transportation money. And the first item is to approve an agreement with the city. And this actually does not have a resolution with it, contrary to what the board action request says, but it's just an agreement with the city and us to outlining the responsibilities of the project.
I'll make a motion to approve the funding participation and construction agreement.
I'll second that.
Motion by Delight, second by Potter. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. And the second item is the agreement with MnDOT that allows us to receive the federal money on behalf of the city. And that one does have a resolution with it.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Motion by Potter, second by Houston. Roll call vote. Commissioner Houston?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution carries unanimous.
Thank you. And the third item is an amendment to an agreement we already have with MnDOT about the 35 roundabout, allowing us to pre-purchase items, signal poles, which we've done already, but this allows up to 90% of federal money instead of 80%, which is what the original agreement said. And there is some good news to share with you on this project. Due to some good bids in the district on other HSIP projects, safety money projects, there's an extra $165,000 that we were able to get towards this project,
That makes up for the
the higher bids.
higher bids that came
Higher
in.
bid. Huh.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the amendment for CASA 35 roundabout.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do too.
Go ahead.
Virgil, this involves a 55-mile-an-hour zone coming into this roundabout?
Correct, from
Because I think I voted against it. I just want to be consistent.
This is the one out by the high school, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
When are they
I thought it was
scheduled to be done
45
with
there.
that?
Prior to school
45
starting.
to the,
They have a completion date of September 2nd.
September 2nd. The weather hasn't been an issue for them at all?
Not yet. Hopefully it won't be.
Chris, do you want to ask your question?
no, Mr. Chair, I was just, I think it's 45 to the roundabout, or was, and then 55 after. Is that,
Oh, going eastbound?
I think coming from Buffalo going to the east, it's 45.
right, and then on the other side of it becomes 55.
Correct.
So when you're coming from the 55 into the 45, you'd have to slow down anyway, because on the other side of the roundabout's a
It's
45.
45.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with that one, I
It
guess.
was always a stop sign there before anyway, a four-way
Right.
stop.
Yep.
So is this here, are we approving this little resolution? Is that this here or just this, or,
That's the 80 to 90%.
oh, I understand that, but is the resolution associated with this, or what's
That's
this?
the next one. That's the one you had pulled.
Oh, that was associated with number 4?
Yeah.
Because I don't see any street numbers in that one. What was that resolution associated with?
37.
For 37 and 137.
38.
Where do you see that?
Well, we pulled
here.
items 4 and 5.
Oh, I must have got it, I must have turned it over in my thing, because the way I had it in my packet, it was the next page behind these other ones. So you're saying it's after this one, okay, very well. Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Virgil. Items for consideration, Budget Committee of the Whole. Commissioner Delyden, please.
Budget Committee, the whole met on July 19th. All commissioners were present, along with Kelly and Hevila. Other presidents were Virgin, and we got Hevila in there twice, so I don't know. I wasn't going to say anything. Meyer, Vate, Tagaro, Nelson, Riley, Commissioner Potter? How do you pronounce your name?
Figliuzzi.
Figuluzzi? I don't know.
Billy Utsi.
Figuluzzi.
Billy Utsi.
Figliuzzi.
Okay. Per, West, Partlow, Goodham, Schwartz, and Rasmussen. It was just a budget kickoff. The purpose was to discuss the schedule and the format of the year's budget process. Draft timeline was handed out. Budget workbooks are due by August 1st. And budget committee meetings are anticipated to begin in the week of August 15th. The county has until September 30th to adopt the preliminary budget. We're hoping to do it on the September 13th board meeting. Schedule is very similar to last year. And the public truth and taxation meeting will be held at the end of November at 6 p.m. We gave a little bit of guidance on how we want to have the board, or have the department heads bring in their budgets comparative to last year. And we are going to ask for printed budget books instead of electronic format this year. And due to union negotiations in 2016, a contingency will be needed to be placed in budget 100 for personnel services. And for that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Delyden.
Second that.
Second by Houston. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries unanimous. We'll do advisory committees and boards, and we'll see if we got anybody in the audience that came here that wants to speak. So quickly, advisory committees and boards. Charlie, got anything?
You start down there.
Chris?
All right, well, I was at the Clearwater River Watershed District meeting, and they have a, kind of a summer tour that will begin with a brunch and a presentation at the Willow Creek Park Pavilion in Kimball. And this is on August 20th from 9 a.m. to noon. And it's for anyone that's interested in learning more about the water quality improvement projects the district has undertaken. So I've got a map and a little brochure here. I already will be at another event that day, so I can't make it, but other public officials encourage anyone to attend. And a few of us, I think, were probably at the Marty Farm, the open house field day at the Marty Farm last Thursday. That was a pretty cool operation, and my grandson was pretty impressed being able to ride in their little vehicle back to see their irrigation, or how their irrigation system is set up. I mean, you can't see most of it because of the
Dirt?
because it's underground. But there was a man from Hungary there, and he's working on a similar operation. So he's in. Did you hear where he's working in southwestern Minnesota? I think he said he's.
Marshall, I thought, but
Okay.
he's a student at the university. He's like a graduate student at the University of Minnesota.
Yep. So he had a kind of a similar operation going, and he took a lot of pictures, and the corn is very high and looking very healthy. So it was a fun experience to go out there. Central Minnesota Mental Health, Commissioner Sawatsky and I were at that meeting last night, and basically with their strategic plan, they've been making a lot of progress. They set a strategic plan in January and have been diligent about working through all the different things with compliance and budget and just quality all the way around. They're making a lot of good progress. So, do you have anything to add on that one? That?
No, I'll just, relative to the Marty farm though,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if Mr. Marty explained this when he was here. He gave us a nice report, but the University of Minnesota is actually doing quite a bit of research on what he's doing right now. So he has his system in 3 different sorts of plats. One where they're adding, for example, the fertilizer.
The fertilizer,
right
right.
into the root system with it. Others where they're applying it above ground. So he's got 3 different sorts of ways in which they're kind of doing this to find out what works best. And of course, I think they're pretty convinced that adding the fertilizer right with the water is going to be the way to go. In fact, they're able to cut their fertilizer cost in half by doing that, which I got to believe is just huge for farmers to be able to cut their fertilizing bill in half. But so at the end of this year, he's going to have an analysis of the yield of each of these 3 different ways of doing it to really provide hard evidence of of which benefits it the most and what the benefits are. And of course, he has years of farming it without irrigation of any sort, and he knows what his yields were then, so he's pretty confident his yields are going to be at least twice as high as that. Although granted, with the rain we've gotten this year, he would have had a better year out there anyhow. So it's kind of a dry year would have really showed some impressiveness with the yields he would have got. But
Yeah, that was, and he also, like if there's a problem, there's a leak in the system at all, it's all underground, but he said it creates an immediate, pool basically, so they know they can identify that. But yeah, his regulators and things are, a good indication too of what's going on with the system, so.
I was not able to make it this year, but I was out last year, so.
Okay.
But I did not know this, but they're using this more extensively in other parts of the world. But Israel, I think actually that the underground tape actually might be made in Israel. But with the more drier ground and stuff, it really pays to put the irrigation in the ground, because you put it on top, it evaporates right off with the heat
certainly.
and stuff.
Well,
and the other
Israel-
thing is where you have, the water tables are going dry, places like Texas, California, if you can use 40% less water, well,
Right.
it
That's
would
huge.
suggest to you that this is gonna have a ginormous impact
Yeah.
on preserving water tables, so.
And a place like Israel, which is really very, very dry, they buy water from other
Did
countries.
he mention
so-
that it kind
No.
of used in Israel?
I don't, he mentioned other parts of the US, but.
I wasn't there the whole time Pat was there, so I
I-
think you were there earlier.
Well, another benefit is, unlike the traditional piping, which sometimes farmers go out to their field and find it missing, nobody ever digs up the ground for plastic
No.
cable.
No.
Nobody's ever stolen that, so. Anything else, Chris?
That's it.
Mike?
Mr. Chair, I'll report we met library board last Tuesday night. We did what's called a baseline budgeting as per Benton County's request. Looks like about a 1% increase, and the cost to Wright County will go up by about $41,000 because of tax capacity. Part of that formula that we use for how we determine who pays what, the tax capacity went up, and that's why we're going to see an increase in that for the library. But that's it.
Yeah, Solar Committee met on Friday, took a couple steps forward on a couple more of the topics, and I think we're on pace we think we're on pace to get this thing accomplished in the 6 months, so.
Yay.
We met on the feedlot, on the chicken, for the chicken
The
ranches.
2 chickens in a doghouse
Yep.
committee, okay.
And Commissioner Burrell will just.
But I think we actually did very good, and this was something that Greg Kreiser helped draft kind of at least so we had a base to work on. And then Tracy Janikula was really beneficial, because we were talking just about chickens, and she said, there's times where a 4-H student wants to have a couple of ducks, and they're on a small acreage out in the country. So what we did there is we went up, I think it was five or six ducks or geese. So it was a smaller number, and then we went up to 30 chickens, and no roosters, so you're not going to have the noise. And we went through this different setbacks, and we also addressed the horses within 1,000 feet of water. Now it's going to be 300, so that we had 2 realtors there, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but she said this could increase the value of some parcels as much as $200,000. So
Wow.
it's going to help our tax base out a lot, she said.
Well, she was
Can
saying
you,
that-
can you tell her to identify which ones so we can tell the assessor's
Well,
office?
Actually, she spoke of one that it was in the Montrose area. It was like 40 acres of
30
land.
30 acres.
30 acres, and they could not put a horse on the property
Yeah, that's
because
ridiculous.
of a wetland within 1,000 feet. And she said that 30-acre farm will probably go up somewhere in that area. if
Yeah,
they can put
and,
horses.
and they've tried to sell it a number of times, and people say, 30 acres, I want a couple horses, that's
Right.
great. And then they find out that they can't have any horses, and then that doesn't
They just
make
walk
sense.
away from it then, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure the owners are gonna be
But-
very grateful.
But anyway, that is when, it was brought up, just introduced at the planning and zoning meeting, but it's gonna go out to the townships now, then it will come back to planning and zoning, and then maybe back to us for approval. But I'm really optimistic on it. I think it just, what Greg started there, and then, like I said, with Tracy's help, we made a few changes, and you know, there's no guarantee. This is just like what we did with the solar, you know, I mean, is it gonna be perfect? Well, you know, we'll just have to see, but
find
it's gonna
out.
be better than what we have for sure, so.
But we did put the cat herding on hold. That one, we haven't been able to come to any decisions on
Probably
yet.
wise.
And, Mr. Chair, I was also at, last Wednesday, at the One Watershed, One Plan Policy Committee up in Litchfield, we met. And going over some interesting things, you know, that we're starting to talk about the organization and how it will be set up and the controls kind of thing. And one of the things that I brought up, it kind of concerns me all the time with Wright County, when we have like the Crow River Organization of Waters. Wright County is huge, a big part of the North Fork of the Crow and the most part of the South too. We get the same one vote as Hope County or some little county up on the other end. And the Crow, though, has been very good. I'll have to say that. It's never been an issue, but it can be an issue down the road. So I brought that up as a discussion point because and especially if they, and which I'm not going to agree to, but if they ever started taking money from Wright County, like say we put money into soil water, if they diverted that into the One Watershed, One Plan, well then we better be in control of whatever goes out, and it better be used in Wright County as far as I'm concerned, so.
I think the only thing relative to that I would say though is if you're like Polk County, you're creating the problem potentially with maybe some of your agricultural runoff and different sorts of things, but it's all leaving your county right away. We're kind of getting it. So, I mean, we just need them to be players because it'd be real easy for them to say, you know what, this really isn't our problem. We might be creating it, but we're not the ones that are having to live with it because as that water gets closer and closer to us, it gets more polluted and more polluted because it goes through more areas and you know what I mean? So we're kind of the ones that have maybe the most to gain on this too, so we need, you know, that makes sense.
The guy from Polk County was joking. He said, if you give him all the money, he'll send us real clear water.
Yeah, well. Like I say, it'd be real easy for them to say, you know what, we really don't have a big interest in this anyhow. But.
And just so, you know, the board's aware of this and stuff too, but where this was kind of presented to us, where each county does their own water plan, their own grant writing, you know, so we're competing against grants all the way on the Crow, let's say, and we're hiring grant writers to $1,000 or $2,000 to write a grant. The next county is too. Well, we would not have to do that. The Bowser or the DNR, we would just receive these grants, and it would be a way. Then this organization would distribute them out.
But Pat's right. You almost got to start at the source and work your way down. Yeah. Because it does come. Water flows downhill, so it's going to be a problem.
And I assume it's the closer it gets to us, the dirtier it gets.
And I said also down our way we have some really rich black soils that just naturally, you know, do that. I mean, if you go back in history on the Minnesota River, that it's always been a muddier river than because of the soils are so rich and dark out there.
And I'm pro-ag, but if those soils weren't plowed up every year and if there was just you know what I mean, nature across them, then you'd have
less.
very, very little of it relative to what we have, so I mean.
And I think these buffer strips should help some
Yeah.
of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
Instead
Well,
of plowing right
yeah.
up to the rivers.
And I think I think most farmers do have buffer strips now. I think we found that out, is that when Kerry was in here, that, you know, a lot of them just,
Naturally do.
because of either one, they want to do the right thing, or two, that's just, it's not easy for them to get any closer than a certain distance anyhow, so.
And the targeted fertilizer checks have been real valuable too. If they actually test the soils and they find out they don't need to add phosphorus because it's already phosphorus rich, for one thing, it prevents more from getting in the watershed, and the other thing is it saves the farmer the cost of having to apply it, so, yeah.
But I will be probably giving more updates on that as the organization starts to come together, and, you know, so that I can get your input as far as where you want me to go with it. But I do not want to see this turning into a taxing authority, and I want to make sure that when the grants do come, that they're allocated out on, you know, some type of a fair basis. Because if you looked at it, Wright County, if we were standalone, we would probably get a bigger share of the grants because we do have more area. And when these grants do come in, then we should make sure that we're getting our share to take care of problems here too, but.
Yeah, as long as you start at the source.
Okay.
And when's the fair, Charlie?
Fair starts tomorrow, everyone.
I thought it was
Yep.
today.
Tomorrow. Well,
I think
you
they
can-
they
you
bring
can
some of
go-
their stuff tonight, don't they?
Yeah, I think it doesn't really officially start today, but there's about 3,000 people come up, and I'm not sure if what that is, but tomorrow's a real opening also. Goes through Sunday.
Sir, did you wish to speak to the board?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you come on up there? You're not officially on the agenda, so we won't be taking any action on your item today, but you're more than welcome to address the board, okay?
Thanks.
And if you could begin by giving your name and address. If you could speak at the podium, please, so we can get it recorded, and then you can give your name and address for the recorder, please.
Thank you. My name is Bob Carrillo, and I live at 5520 Needham Avenue, Northeast in St. Michael. If I could hand these out.
Yep.
please. And thanks for at least allowing me to speak this morning. I'm not sure which one of the commissioners I spoke with last week. Oh,
Be me,
oh, okay.
your neighbor.
My neighbor, there you go. I've had a reoccurring problem with regard to mailbox theft and vandalism for 3 years now. And the third time was this past fall. I have literally done everything humanly possible to prevent this thing from occurring, and it has created a ripple effect relating to a number of different issues, outgoing mail, incoming mail, and why I'm here is because of a check that was mailed as I was leaving town, because I travel quite a lot for business, and I mailed it put it on my mailbox that I thought was impregnable, and my neighbor will tell you that in fact, I brought a picture of my mailbox now. Feel free to pass that around. Which I thought was absolutely invulnerable. It weighs probably 1,000 pounds with all the cement I put inside of it after I, myself and 3 other people carried it out to that platform to prevent this thing from happening again. Well, I was wrong. This past fall, while I was out of town, my mailbox was broken into. By the way, this is the second mailbox, which was delivered to me about 2 months after
You gotta
the
press the button
second
on the side.
vandalism by a very nice farmer that left me a note, got a piece of mail inside of it, so he was able to locate my address. This was my second attempt. A locked mailbox, which isn't apparently working.
So that was before this one,
Oh, yeah,
as I say, because this one definitely looks stronger than that
this is
one.
number 2.
Okay. And what was the one on here, number 3?
Pardon me?
It's number 3?
That's number 3.
Okay.
All right. In any event, when I discovered the problem and I received mail back from the treasurer's office, I immediately made a phone call to Mr. Hivela, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. At the latter part of October, early November, I made 3 phone calls up until December 9th when I underwent a major surgery and I was laid up for 3 months. And no return phone calls. I was more than a bit disappointed, and I had back-to-back surgeries from December 9th all the way through the spring of this year. In any event, Mr. Hivela has a terrible habit of not returning phone calls, which exacerbated the problem from my point of view. And then when I actually physically delivered my tax payment this spring, I asked respectfully, and all of his staff would attest to this, respectfully asked for a meeting with Mr. Hivela, and I then presented a waiver application with supporting evidence of the fact that I'd been vandalized again. And by the way, the mailbox that you're seeing in this picture, they actually broke into the tumbler this time. and tore it apart, took all my mail, both outgoing and incoming mail while I was out of town, strewn all over the neighborhood. Some that was finally remailed apparently by some kind neighbors. And some was received, some was not. My neighbor next door, Ron Natefield, was kind enough to come out and help me actually repair the mailbox. Now I've soldered it, I've bolted it, I've super glued it, and I cut a slot in it so nobody can actually take mail from it except me with a key, and I can't even leave any mail there because there's no clip any longer. In any event, I presented all of this evidence to the treasurer's office when I dropped off my property tax payment this past spring. I respectfully asked for a meeting with Mr. Hevela. No response. Made another call in the beginning of July because I'd received a response back from their office relating to this application, denying me the final one-time, or second time I should say, abatement of this $136.97 of a penalty and whatever that represents. So I asked for a phone call back. Once again, Mr. Hevela decided not to return my call. I finally spoke with him about 10 days ago. I think his staff was embarrassed enough to tap on his door and tell him that I was insistent, respectfully, that I wanted to speak with him. And he finally did answer the phone, and we spoke of this matter. He was unwavering. So I'm asking for a couple of things. One, because I refuse to send mail out by way of this box any longer. I can't do it because I've sealed it completely. So I drop my mail off at the post office now. But I'm asking for reconsideration in terms of overriding Mr. Hevela's denial of my request to get rid of this $136.97. And while I'm here, I'd also suggest, and my neighbor, Mr. Deladen, would attest to the fact that that is a very, very dark corner. There's a light on the other side because I have a corner lot, but there is no light on a post right near this mailbox area. And it's not just me that's being vandalized. It's another couple of neighbors, same kind of problem, but to a lesser extent because I have a locked mailbox because my business is also run out of my home.
Those are all city streets. There's nothing the county can do about lights or anything.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm asking for in terms of a reconsideration relating to this $136.97. And as I said to Mr. Deladen the other day, it's not even about the money. It's really about the fact that I could not, no matter how many times I tried, get Mr. Hevela's attention. And the second issue is, this happened again, and you'll see the copy of the check or the post office markings. This happened again through no fault of my own. I've done everything humanly possible to prevent this from happening. Now I just can't simply allow mail to go out from my property.
Okay, so just so I understand, your mailbox has been vandalized 3 times?
Yes.
And
The
every
first time
single-
there's a police report attached
And
to
every
it.
single time it was on October 15th?
No, it's within that area of period of time. The second time, I don't think it was October 15th, I'm not quite sure, but on or about that same period of time. Yeah. And you can see the police report. The Wright County Sheriff's Department didn't get out there until, let's see, when was this? Going to start at 10/28, October 28th. Same issue, though, except that I never got that mailbox back at all. And this is not if you read my neighbor's testimony, he'll tell you, he's trying to corroborate my story, which is, this is a reoccurring problem.
On that same page where it says the sheriff was out on the 28th,
Yes.
it says date and time reported 10/28/13, so.
Well, that's
Looks
when
like-
they
It looks like
came
they were
out.
out the same day.
Pardon me?
It looks like they were out the same day.
That's when I got back into town and asked them to come out.
30.
I travel a lot for business out of state, so I'm not always in town, and sometimes I'm gone for a week or two.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Kroll, so you're sending the payments in your outgoing mail, or you're not receiving the statements?
No, outgoing mail. My payment was
Stolen?
stolen,
Okay.
and it was timely mailed. It was,
So the the postal person has a key to get into your mailbox?
no.
Okay.
There's a flap, even now on the mailbox, there's a flap with a key. I can get in there to retrieve mail. There was a tumbler that I could pull with a handle and drop mail in there with a clip for outgoing mail if I so chose to send the mail that way.
Okay.
But how would the postal person get it out
Yeah,
of your
how would-
box?
Just pull the tumbler, pull the outgoing mail from the clip. You could get to that. Now that tumbler doesn't exist any longer. Only the plate.
I just want the police report on October 28, 2013. I was dispatched to a theft at 5520 Needham Avenue Northeast in the city of St. Michael. The PR, I'm not sure what PR stands for, but then it
Person
says.
reporting.
The person reporting, Robert Carrillo, stated his metal lockbox style mailbox was removed from its post and taken. Carrillo works from home and receives confidential mail. An unknown amount of mail is at least missing from Saturday's delivery. Carroll to check if mail was delivered today. Carrillo believes the mailbox was taken sometime overnight. I checked the mailbox post and found no signs of evidentiary prints. It appears the mailbox was ripped from the base of the screws. If I were to read this, I would believe that the mailbox was stolen on like the 27th or something.
I know, but I was out of town during that period of time. I
But
called.
they talk about mail being missing from at least Saturday night, so this must have been on like Monday or something. They
it's
didn't know if nothing was gone. I mean,
It's the wrong Saturday. I'm trying to tell you, same thing happened this past October. I was out of town, dropping my mail at that box as I left town. When I did get back, all I can tell you is that I called the Wright County Sheriff's Department. The second time when it was done, I didn't even bother to call because there was no point to it.
okay.
And my neighbor's statement really does cover this very well.
Yeah, where is that statement at here? I'm not,
Second page.
oh, that one there. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Yep. Well, it looks to me like you built that, or, oh, he's saying, well, because you wrote that and he's signing that he agrees with what you're saying, okay?
Yes.
Okay, I got you. Well, okay.
He actually helped me secure the mailbox that is now housed in the brick framework.
Did you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Okay, like I said, I don't think we can really take action today because it's not on the agenda, but, Brian, did you want to give any advice relative to the process of appeals and Mr. Evala's role and responsibility relative to his elected office?
Well, I did respond to an email string that Bob had sent out, and in conversations with Bob, it sounds like at some point in the past, the auditor-treasurer was delegated the ability to deal with abatements of penalties and interest.
I think the county board took action of that sort. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting that that was probably done by resolution. I haven't found that resolution. I found another resolution where, I think from 2005, where the auditor-treasurer was delegated the right to abate homestead, where folks fail to, it's usually current year stuff, I think, where folks have failed to file a homestead application. Now, those, I think, Tony's actually been putting on the consent agenda, but at one point, at least, the auditor-treasurer was delegated those. I haven't found the one for the penalties and interest, so we should probably look for that, because if that, the statute allows the board to delegate that to the auditor-treasurer. If that was done, then the auditor-treasurer is kind of the end of the road. I don't know that the board has the ability to override those decisions. And that may be because, with the auditor-treasurer being elected position, I'm not sure. Then there's a statute that talks about abatements of not only penalties and interest, but taxes. And as I read that statute, the assessor and the auditor treasurer are the gatekeepers, so an application doesn't even come before you unless they have signed off on it. And so again, it's kind of, I'm questioning the ability of the board to deal with this type of issue. But we can look into it a little further, at least to try and find that resolution, and then get back to you.
Okay, very well. Bob, did you wish to add anything at this time?
Sure, Board, I just want to point out that anytime I get a call regarding abatement of penalties and/or interest, I route these to staff because we have a form that we start filling out. Whether it's a voicemail, a phone call, if I get a phone call, I'll transfer the call to the staff. So I understand Mr. Crillo is kind of frustrated in the fact that he didn't get satisfaction, but I just want to assure you that even though I didn't communicate back with him, we did communicate back with him. His calls were routed to appropriate staff. So,
Okay, thanks, Bob. Yes, sir.
May I?
Yeah.
Mr. Heveler would suggest that they were routed to proper staff. No one ever returned my phone calls, ever. When I made my property tax payment physically this past spring and put in this application with the supporting documentation, I asked respectfully for a returned call. I wanted a meeting. There was no such response. I think anyone making such a request should at least be acknowledged by someone connected with the public authority. I think it's unfair to suggest that some staffer was delegated to get back to me and they did not. That's most of the irritation here. It's not the $139. It's the fact that I was completely ignored from late October, November, and then I just threw in the towel because of surgical issues and being homebound. I even put another mailbox, and my neighbor will tell you this, right next to my back door so that I could monitor this problem while I was homebound for 3 months. I just think it's amazing to me that Mr. Healer would suggest that he pass this message on to a staffer, but the staffer didn't bother to get in touch with me either. I'd also like to point out that the postmark on this, and by the way, that envelope that came back to me with my check was a complete disaster. It must have gone through World War III somehow. At least the check that was returned to my bank. But the postmark is October 19th. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, this was a check that was stolen?
Yeah.
And then got back to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was stolen. It finally reached the treasurer's office. Apparently, some good Samaritan in the neighborhood picked up my mail and dropped it in a mailbox somewhere. It didn't come back to me initially. It was dropped into a mailbox, and outgoing mail finally ended up, some of it,
Understood.
ended up going where it was supposed to go, including this office here.
Okay.
It was just dated late because of the problem.
Okay.
So this happened though last fall?
Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't call the sheriff last fall?
There was no point. There was just no point. When I built that housing, I was as satisfied as I possibly could be that I've solved the problem. There was no point in calling the sheriff's department. I just solved the problem again by sealing the mailbox completely. And there is no possibility now of sending outgoing mail through that box because there's no clip, there's no tumbler, there's nothing. It's all solid now.
When did you know that were you at home that time when that got damaged this last go around, or?
No, I was out of town. I was in Denver on business. I found out when I got back. Actually, it was my neighbor that pointed out.
So what date did you mail it?
Huh?
What day did you mail it?
I believe it was on a Friday, Thursday or Friday when I was leaving for the airport. It was way before the deadline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It would seem to me that what we probably need to do, I know Brian said he was going to check some things, but I think the board has heard your case and your arguments and your concerns, and if any member of the board so desires to put this on the agenda in the future to have it official action by the county. They have ability to do that. Some of that may have to do with what County Attorney Brian Osselson comes up with in his opinion on even the standing of the board. And then I guess they'll have to, if we do have that ability, then they'll have to kind of weigh your arguments relative to.
Well, I know
they
your
should have.
time is valuable, all of you, and so is mine. I
Well,
travel all the way from St.
No, I
Michael.
understand, and I like I say, because you're not officially on the agenda, we kind of have policies about taking official action, and regardless, it probably wouldn't matter, because Mr. Osselson states that there's kind of some unknown here in the legal process anyhow, based on action the board may or may not have taken in the past, but.
And just as a final question, who would I talk to relative to the possibility of getting a light out there?
Probably someone on the city council, I suppose.
St. Michael? Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any closing comments here?
Robert?
Oh, yeah, you got your phone here,
Make sure you know.
we don't want you to not be able to play Pokemon Go this afternoon. Okay, anything else come before the board? There being no further business, we're adjourned at 10:06 a.m.